Welcome back to this episode of Buzz on Business. I am Debbie Bemke. I am the Executive Director of the Northern Medina County Chamber Alliance. I am honored to welcome Ed Sureck from ES3 Solutions, also a former board member of the Chamber many years ago. So welcome, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I have one question before we begin.
Okay.
I understand the E and the S, but what is the 3 for?
When I decided to go out on my own, we sat down as a family and we were trying to figure out what the name was. I am the third.
Gotcha.
But it also then represented a number of things with the business that I do. It also is the 3 people that kind of guide what I do, and my 2 boys and my wife. And so the number kept coming up and it seemed to work.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It has meaning. Very good.
It does.
So tell me a little bit about your business and what you do.
I was trying to think on the way here about how many years I've been doing this. I normally say 35, but I think we're getting a little north of that.
Yeah.
In the medical device, pharmaceutical, life science business.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in quality, I've been in compliance. And so throughout my career, I've really worked with organizations on making sure they stay compliant, but patients stay safe. As part of that, I also then ended up working with some manufacturing companies on quality systems. And so now my organization really will work across any type of business and understand what they do, how they do it, and make sure that they've got the foundation there, not just to stay compliant, but to grow the business, to build the business. I think a lot of what we do in the regulated business is really common sense. Mm-hmm. I say this all the time when I do training. As a CEO, you want to know that your products are designed properly. So the regulations require you have some sort of efforts to design them the right way and document it. You want to make sure they're manufactured the same way every time, so you have procedures, you have processes in place. If there's complaints, as a CEO, I want to know what those complaints are so that we can address them. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of things, but I've worked for a lot of organizations that quality is considered a cost.
Yes.
And I tend to have the perspective that quality really is what's going to drive the business. And as a CEO, again, these things are things that I want to know anyway. Mm-hmm. So I try and find the practical solutions, because I think if they're practical for the organization and everybody's different, then people are going to continue with that. If it's just, Ed said to put it in, as soon as I walk out the door, they throw the paperwork out and they're done. And so we make it a very practical, sustainable approach.
So I have a question about that, because you just said that you work in all industries.
Yeah.
So you, let's just say, have a manufacturing company who does roll forming, mm-hmm. and right? So you're doing that. And so then you go to a medical facility and you're working with them. Do you have specific people who know that industry? Like, do you have to know roll forming? Do you have to know lift chairs?
Yes, no, and maybe.
Okay.
And I say that because it's going to depend on what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. I've got a network. Just recently I was working with a client and they came to me, it was a medical company, and they said, we need somebody to change the labeling on our product to allow it for vet use, mm-hmm. In Europe, and we'd like them to be an expert on the documentation that has to go along with it. I said, let me see what I can do. Within 24 hours, I had someone.
Interesting. Well, that's who you know too.
Right? A lot of it is a network that I've developed.
Right.
And this was somebody I didn't know, but I reached out to a colleague, they reached out to somebody, and it worked. Most of the time though, and it's a question my wife gives me all the time, how can you go in and do this? We drive process. We don't drive the specifics to a business. So even a friend of mine who's a doctor, I said, I could come into your hospital and do what you do. And he said, there's no way. I said, if we break it down very simple in a flow chart, you have an input, you have some value add, and you have an output. I said, in your case, I said, unfortunately, you have 2 outputs. You have a sick person that comes in, you provide care, they either recover or they don't. I said, but it's the same thing as a manufacturing project. I get raw materials in, I add value, and I send them out the door. I said, if you think of it from that perspective, it's very process driven, and that's the mindset that we take so that you can see it.
You know, that's interesting you say that too, because it immediately made me think about small businesses and success of small businesses, right? You know, I'm a baker and I am the best baker in the whole world, but I don't know how to run a business, right? Like, so you're kind of that person where, not that they don't know how to run their businesses, but you're helping them with those processes, which that process could be the same as for medical, for manufacturing, restaurant.
I recently went back out on my own. It's been within the last year. And before I did, I was with a pretty large consulting firm, and I looked over the 8 years that I was with them, I had over 400 engagements.
Wow.
Now that's all kinds of different sizes of companies. And I even went through and I looked, and we specialized in the medical and the life science business. And as I looked at it, it said I had been with 17 of the top 20 Fortune companies. So we've got some experience, and I've worked with companies that are 5 and 6 employees.
So before we end, where are you located? Like, who do you work with? Greater Cleveland, Akron, all over?
Global. We work with companies. I used to have responsibility for 55 countries. I've worked Asia, all throughout Europe, South America, and coast to coast here.
Wow. That's great. So if anybody was interested in contacting you, can you tell us what your contact information is?
Yeah, we have a website. It is ES3Solutions.com. I am on LinkedIn, and all my contact information is provided there. And so I'd be happy to even sit down and talk with people about, you know, I enjoy talking about the subject. So I don't think that it's always necessarily a business engagement, but sometimes it's just, hey, I got a question.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being a member of the Chamber, for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. We will be right back.